Welcome to Workforces. I'm Julian Alcid.
And I'm Caitlin Lemoyne, and we speak with the innovators who shape the future of work and learning.
Together, we unpack the complex elements of workforce and career preparation and offer practical solutions that can be scaled and sustained.
Workforces is supported by Lumina Foundation. Lumina is an independent private foundation in Indianapolis that is committed to making opportunities for learning beyond high school available to all. Let's dive in.
Caitlin, it feels like every day we're hearing more about the challenges facing new college graduates entering the workforce.
It's true, Julian. Some hiring managers say recent grads are unprepared for the world of work, and employers are increasingly seeking candidates with work experience, even for entry-level positions. It's a pretty tough landscape to navigate out there.
Yeah, and that's where work-based learning becomes so critical. More and more jobs require experience, so we have to build experiential learning into learners' academic programs. But developing effective experiential learning programs at scale can be incredibly challenging for both employers and educators.
Which is why we're so excited to have Dana Stephenson and Dave Savory of Riipen with us today. Riipen is tackling this issue head-on by providing a work-integrated learning platform and ecosystem.
Dana is Riipen's co-founder and CEO, and he launched Riipen with a vision to end underemployment by ensuring every learner can access authentic, project-based experiential learning opportunities. And Dave is Riipen's co-founder and VP of Experiential Learning. With over 15 years of experience in entrepreneurship and business development, he brings us to this important work.
So Dana and Dave, welcome to Workforces. We're looking forward to learning more about how Riipen is making work-based learning accessible at scale.
Thanks, Caitlin. Thanks, Julian. Great to be here.
So as we dive in today, can you please tell us more about your respective backgrounds and your current roles at Riipen? And from there, we'd love to hear more about the problems that you're looking to address through Riipen.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks. Great to be here. Thanks for having us on. My name is Dave Savory. I'm one of the co-founders of Riipen and lead our experiential learning team. Really, in my day-to-day role, I focus on working really deeply with partners across a pretty diverse range of industries in higher ed, workforce, intermediary groups, government, as well as funding partners who are really thinking through and excited to invest in really new models that can remove barriers and create more access to experiential learning programs. And so excited to share a little bit of that work today.
Yeah, it's Dana Stephenson, co-founder and CEO of Riipen. We're building the world's fastest growing and largest work-based learning marketplace, connecting to students and companies through short-term skills-specific projects where students get experience, professional connections, and find the jobs they love. And employers gain fresh insights from the next generation of leaders and decision makers, and build and diversify their talent pipeline for upcoming roles in their organization. And we're an incredibly mission-driven company, and I think the mission for us is really all about ending underemployment globally. It's an exciting story of sort of where that came. Actually, the story really kicks off where Dave and I met back in business school going back to 2012.
Yeah, we actually met in 2010, very serendipitously. We were in a kick orientation of our business school program at University of Victoria. We randomly sat next to each other and instantly had a lot of mutual kind of values and alignments. And the following year, we actually had a course together where a faculty member came in and kind of ripped up the Harvard Business Review case and brought in a CEO of a local mid-sized company in the Victoria area, and basically said, hey, everyone, instead of doing a case of a textbook, everyone's going to break up into groups, and we're going to do a real project for credit on this company's kind of strategic crossroads that they were at. And Dana and I were in the same group, and we had quite a bit of work experience before entering our undergrad experience. And we just thought this was amazing in terms of how to better engage with the learning and really apply the learning. And we had the CEO came in with a few team members. They presented their organization. We had a few kind of check-in meetings with them throughout the semester. And at the end of the semester, the team came back and they kind of did a Shark Tank kind of experience for every group presenting their recommendations. And we just came out of that experience with just so much more enthusiasm around hey, why can't more of our courses that we're doing, all have relevant kind of real world applied projects that are built into them, why can't more of them be with real employers that are going to help us build our network, develop our skills, grow our portfolio and our resume of experience? And that was really kind of our light bulb moment for why we started to go down the path of building Riipen.
Yeah, that's so cool. And so Dana, how has the experiential learning landscape evolved since you started Riipen?
A ton. Dave's, the story we just described takes us back to 2010, 2012. We were part of the University of Victoria. So Riipen's a Canadian company, born out of the University of Victoria. It was a student project for students. But one of the main reasons why we focused on this project-based experience model is that in Canada, your audience may or may not know, but in Canada, the co-op model that Northeastern and Drexel and University of Cincinnati in the U.S. are so well known for, among others. In Canada, co-op is huge. Almost every institution offers a co-op program, highly sought after, really well funded, really one of the most amazing experiences that we've had. So when we first got into this space in Canada, experiential learning, work integrated learning was really all about the co-op model. But the programs that we're offering co-op, by no surprise, just like we're seeing in the U.S. right now, I think Northeastern is now harder to get into than Dartmouth, given some of the stats that we're seeing. Unsurprisingly, in Canada, the programs that we're offering co-op were highly sought after, getting a lot of enrollment. The challenge is, at the time, 2 million students across Canada, only about 200,000 students were getting access to a co-op. So a huge supply and demand problem. And we started thinking to ourselves that there's got to be really a better way. There's got to be a more flexible approach to help reach students earlier on and throughout their education pathway. Dave mentioned we had a lot of experience when we got into this, when we were early on going through our education pathway. So we had no problem getting our co-op, but we were shocked to find out how many students were in their third year and had no work experience. So I think where we see things evolve is that traditionally, when people think about work-based learning in the higher ed context, they've been thinking about the more traditional co-op model. They've been thinking about the more traditional internship model. But the evolution is now, what we're really excited about is that more folks are really starting to see this on a full continuum. Learners have all faced different barriers. They might be in different geographic locations. They might have other jobs they might have to hold on to help pay for their higher education degree or program. They might have loved ones that are taken care of, a whole bunch of different barriers. And so the beauty of having an entire continuum is you can meet the students where they are. We can have a whole bunch of different types of approaches, going from lower intensity, shorter duration opportunities that can fit within a course or fit in a co-curricular setting, all the way up to higher intensity, longer duration experiences like a full-blown internship, co-op or apprenticeship, and everything in between. And that's part of probably one of the most exciting evolutions that we've been seeing over the last little bit.
Yeah, and I'd just add to that, it's been interesting to kind of see just the evolution and the nature of how a lot of these experiences, like when we first started, a lot of the experiences that we were supporting, of course, we're an online platform, but a lot of the educators and the employers that we were working with were doing in-person kind of collaborations. And then obviously as the pandemic happened, there was a massive push to remote and virtual collaborations between employers and students, which obviously has amazing benefits in terms of breaking down barriers for learners who are not in parts of the country that have access to a lot of employment or industry opportunities. And now we're kind of seeing a bit of a push back towards some sort of hybrid model where we're very focused on how do we take the best from the remote kind of virtual model, but then how do we actually layer in kind of a local or a regional ecosystem element to it so that learners are actually getting experiences with organizations that are relevantly close to them. And so we're seeing a really nice just kind of trend of how some of these regional and statewide ecosystems are starting to blossom.
So you've presented kind of it sounds like there's a full suite and range of offerings that you try to provide to both, I would imagine, it's kind of a three-sided marketplace, right? So I guess for employers, institutions, and learners, you're looking to provide kind of a range of opportunities, work-based learning opportunities or positions or projects. How do you go about doing that? Like, can we get a little bit into the nuts and bolts and we're thinking about these current trends. How are you building your company in response to those trends?
I will say one point of clarification. So we do offer a whole suite, but we're very vertically deep on the project-based experience. And what's exciting about the project-based experience is that it can be 10 hours long, completed over 2 weeks. It can be individual or group, or it can be 250 hours long, it can be completed over 2 semesters, and everything in between. And that's really what gives it the flexibility. And really ensures that you can have these high quality experiences where students are focused on developing skills rather than some of the experiences that you do sometimes see out there. We all know that some internships are better than others, and you can really ensure that you're focusing on career relevant skills as part of that project and solving a real business challenge in your community or around the world. So we don't do traditional internships. We don't do traditional co-op programs, just to be clear on that. But what's really exciting is most of our partners, actually, the vast majority of our partners realize that the fastest way left in a world of really challenging supply and demand in the internship and co-op space, one of the fastest ways to grow your internship and co-op supply is to actually do more project-based experiences. That attracts more employers. They engage. It's a stepping stone. They convert those into co-op and internship employers. And of course, it prepares your students to go land those. So we're extremely complementary, but we are very much focused on the project-based. So how do we do that? We've got an entire, you named it, we really are a marketplace. On one side of the marketplace, we attract employers. We work with our partners to help them activate their networks of alumni, activate their networks of even co-op and internship employers who want a wider variety and wider spectrum of things that they can do to engage students. We have our own channel partners with business associations and chambers and all sorts of organizations where we can have a one-to-many approach to reach employers. And then, of course, we do our own outreach. We provide a platform that just makes it really easy for companies to come on and start to input all their ideas, all their challenges, all the goals that they're trying to achieve. And it starts to pump out a whole bunch of different project ideas that they can put into our ecosystem and make those available to our academic institutions. So typically, we've got anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 live projects in the marketplace waiting to be matched to an educator to provide to their students at any given time. We completely oversubscribe that side. So we've actually flipped the supply and demand challenge, and the employers are now, rather than students competing for jobs in this marketplace, companies compete to work with students. The other side of it is we have our partner institutions, and they come on. And it's really the whole system here is very educator driven. So the educators get to be learned very early on that if we can put the educators in the driver's seat and allow them to create the experience that aligns with their learning objectives, and then we can use the platform to help them communicate that experience in a way that helps the employers and the educators be speaking the same language, then we can make these really meaningful matches and get these projects that align with the business and talent needs, but also align with the learning objectives of the program embedded directly into the curriculum. So that's sort of like half the battle right there. We just really build this marketplace, offer the opportunities for these to connect at the right project, to the right educator, for the right students at the right time. And that helps with, the larger we grow, the more we scale up, the easier that becomes, and the more valuable that becomes for everyone who's participating in our network. And then we have a whole suite of tools. So once you actually launch these project-based experiences, we've learned from our partners that how do I manage my students? How do I help make sure that my students are communicating well to the employers, having meaningful conversations? How do I track them through? How do I survey them before, during, and after? How do I create opportunities for reflection on the skills that they're developing as part of these projects? All of that is built into the platform so that our partners can manage it, they can track it, they can measure it, and they can really see how much these interventions, these project-based experiences are improving students' retention, improving student success, student completion rates, and of course, ultimately student employment outcomes.
I just build on that. By really focusing on the project-based model, we're really tapping into a pool of employers, primarily small and medium-sized employers that aren't traditionally engaging in more formal kind of apprenticeships or internship or co-op model because they are a big lift and they're quite resource intensive for smaller organizations to really support well. And so by working with employers who are kind of thinking through more smaller, flexible project-based experiences, we're able to engage an audience that isn't participating in some of those traditional models, and that's really helped us to grow that side of the ecosystem very well.
It's quite an undertaking. I mean, it sounds like there's a lot of moving parts. And I'm interested to hear a little bit about, I'm interested to hear more about how you actually build this. Dave, is this like, do you have a team of folks who are developing these projects? How do you, what's the level of involvement on the part of the employers and the other partners? And then I really want to hear about challenges. What keeps you guys up at night?
Well, I mean, we do have a great team on both sides of the ecosystem, supporting educators and our academic partners, as well as our employer partners. And on the employer side, we're really focusing on, we almost recruit and engage employers in a just-in-time way based on kind of the needs and the demands that we're seeing from our educators and our academic partners. We've learned over time that when they actually see a tangible opportunity at a institution that they recognize, and it's a call to action of a real program that's accepting applications, that helps small, medium-sized businesses, any business, really be like, yes, I want to do that, or maybe that's not a good fit, but I want to post my project into the ecosystem. And so the way matchmaking happens is it goes both ways. So employers are able to apply to an educator's program, and vice versa. A lot of our educators are actually really good at going into the employer side of the ecosystem, searching for projects that are aligned with their courses, and actually reaching out and being proactive to employers. And so we see success kind of both ways. We've also really been investing and leveraging AI in the Riipen system to just remove friction points for just saving time and helping employers. Obviously, creating content and thinking of project ideas it can be a challenge. How do I write a project that's a really good fit for an educator that would be a good project for their class? And we've always had really great templates built out, but really in the last year and a half, 2 years, we've built into the platform the ability for employers to go in and just type out ideas that they're interested in doing and use our project AI tools to create a project scope that's really well defined and is designed in a way that can be embedded into a course. And then we have kind of an assessment of when they're looking to apply to courses, if their project is a good fit, green, yellow, or red. And if it's a great fit, that really increases the match rates, but it also helps employers think through, okay, well, what do I need to do to add into this project or change the project scope to make sure it is aligned with what an educator or what an academic partner is looking for.
One of the major challenges that we see have always seen is that there's no shortage from our academic partners and educators who want to deliver this kind of high quality, high impact experience to their learners. The biggest challenge that I think we've been dealing with really from day one has always been, I'd love to offer this for my students. I see how this is happening out there and other faculty members are doing this, but where am I going to find the time? Where am I going to find the connections, and how am I going to manage this? So technology can play a huge role in that. We can help bring the connections. We can help remove friction, as Dave described. We can offer an enormous amount of features to help with the management, but ultimately that's only one part of the equation. One of the most exciting trends that I think we're seeing right now in this space is the fastest growing job title that we've seen out there is experiential learning coordinator or manager or director or work-based learning manager or director or work integrated learning manager, or director or coordinator. And some of these teams are actually growing quite big, and they really kind of bridge the gap between the academic world and the career services world. And these are the teams that we're often working very closely with. So often we'll work directly with faculty members, but as an institution starts to really see the opportunity to scale this and go from 5 to 50 to 100 different courses at their institution and thousands of different students getting these experiences on a semesterly basis, then there's this opportunity to build out a team like this that we can really work very closely with to run these programs on behalf of faculty members. And then there's a whole new cohort of faculty members who wouldn't have otherwise participated, who are now willing to participate because there's someone on campus who's a staff member who really understands their institution, understands the strategic goals, understands what, is trying to standardize how things are measured, has a tool like Riipen that can say, hey, look, you focus on teaching and learning and you focus on supporting the students. We're going to focus on managing the employers and managing the students through this project, and we'll all work on this together. And that way really within an ecosystem, within an academic institution's ecosystem, it really becomes this partnership between the experiential learning coordinator, the faculty member, and Riipen, setting up the best possible experience for the students and the employers together.
Yeah, and just to kind of build on from a challenges perspective, I know from a regional kind of ecosystem perspective, one of the main challenges is just breaking down silos across a lot of different stakeholders who are doing really great work and all have the right intentions across workforce, higher ed, government, policy, chambers of commerce. Like, how do we actually, they're all doing pockets of this work really well, but how do we actually kind of break down some of those silos and bring these folks to the table under a more unified approach to really drive the outcomes that they're looking for their different stakeholders that they're serving.
So one thing that strikes me is this balance of what sounds like a really hands-on and like customized approach in many ways, with some amount of standardization as well, like around, I would imagine, in order to ensure like quality of the types of project proposals that are coming in on the employer side, and then what the quality of the learner experience that that occurs as a result of the connection between the instructor and the employer. So I'm just curious, how do you balance that customization, standardization tension, and do you see it as a tension? I guess
we've taken a hybrid approach. When we actually first launched Riipen, it was all standardized. When our partners, our academic institutions came on board, they launched experiences, they launched it the Riipen way. When our employers came on, they launched it the Riipen way. Everyone was joining Riipen and getting match made on Riipen. They ran it the Riipen way. And that was super successful at reaching scale. As you mentioned, standardization really helped with removing friction, reaching scale, which really helped us solve the chicken and egg challenge and the cold start problem that a lot of schools have when they want to get an ecosystem off the ground. But then it became very clear that every institution that we work with is very unique. The students that they serve are unique. The employers that they engage with and serve, and the challenges they want to support in the community are unique. So there started becoming a whole wide variety of different ways that our partner institutions wanted to run these programs, what they wanted to measure, what was important to them, how to set up these programs, both from a curricular or co-curricular way. And so what we essentially ended up launching is this hybrid model where each academic institution that we work with can launch their own private branded portal that is completely configurable. They can set it up the way they want to set up. They can set up the nomenclature. They can set up how they want to, what skills they want to measure and track, how they want to survey their students, the reporting, everything. And they can bring in their own employers, and their own employers really live within that ecosystem. So they're constantly building up their own vibrant ecosystem. But what we also heard from our institutions is they did not want to lose access to the marketplace because that was incredibly valuable. So the hybrid world really came from us being able to still have the more standardized open marketplace where all of our partners live. And so any employers who come from our network, when we're bringing them in, they're coming into the standardized marketplace where they can launch their projects super quickly. They can get them off the ground. They can really build the scale of the opportunities available. That's how we can make these project-based experiences abundant and really sort of flip the supply and demand challenge. But each of our institutions now can launch their own custom configured portal the way that they want to run it. And then we seed that ecosystem. We're able to seed that ecosystem. So, another challenge before we did this was, helping schools start their own ecosystem was really challenging. They all face their own chicken and egg. They all face their own cold start problem. But then with this ability to have the hybrid, we could seed that ecosystem with more than enough employers, get it off the ground. And then once it gets off the ground, you'll start to quickly see that many of our partners, they'll flip from 80% of the employers coming from our ecosystem and 20% from their own networks to the complete opposite. 80% are these employers who are from their own local community, using our tools, coming back year over year over year. And they're less reliant on our open marketplace, but they still always have that. So if they want to launch a new program in a new area that they haven't done yet, don't worry, we can help you get that one started as well.
Yeah, and on the point of your question about like support of the learners and the employers once they're actually in an experience, we've had over 275,000 students now in the U.S. and Canada go through and complete a work-based learning project, and we've learned a lot in terms of, no matter who's running the experience, what are the key things that need to happen in order to set the experience up properly, in order to source the right employers, in order to set the right expectations, in order to support learners connecting to those employers and making sure that the little things are happening in terms of signing NDAs, having kickoff meetings, having those milestone check-ins, getting the right information from the employers, and actually utilizing and maximizing kind of the opportunity, right through providing feedback and reflection and helping learners build a portfolio that can help them articulate that experience and the skills that they learned. And so those things need to happen regardless of who does it. And so we've kind of taken a philosophy and approach over time. We've actually built out a specialized team at Riipen that is focused on being in the weeds, kind of support the experts in managing these experiences on behalf of some of our academic partners. And or we're working with schools that have that function built up already, and they've been investing in that experiential learning management element, and or working with faculty who have been doing this for years, and they have a really well-defined system. And so before we kind of launch any partnership, we really want to make sure that everyone understands kind of all those key things that need to happen to make sure that we're going to be driving the outcomes that everyone's looking for.
Well, and you've sort of gone there, Dave. The next question, the one that we like to ask all our guests, is how can our audience become forces in authentically integrating work-based learning experiences into educational offerings, from short-term programming to long-term degrees, and whether it's folks who are already involved in those efforts or who want to become involved. What are the first steps?
I would recommend, if you're not ready to kind of launch a wide scale kind of program, don't be afraid to just get started, even if it's a small implementation. Don't let perfection kind of get in the way of progress. I think that's the term. But often with a lot of programs that we talk to, they're forming committees and they're doing research and they're figuring out how to do this and what that impact is going to be and how to budget and resource. And those things all need to happen, of course, but that shouldn't be in lieu of getting started. There's cohorts of students going through their programs every semester that's happening, and they're missing out. And so I guess the message there would be, don't be afraid to get started, even if it's in a small kind of controlled area that can then inform how you're going to invest in this work further.
The thing I'll add to this is really adopting a yes and mindset, or a both and mindset. I think one of the things that a lot of higher education institutions often will get tripped up on is, should we be doing internships, or should we be doing project-based learning, or should we be doing simulated experiences, or should we be doing authentic, real live engagement projects with real employers? And going back to the whole continuum conversation right from the beginning, we're big believers that it's a both and it really shouldn't be a debate between one or the other. It really should be, let's try and invest in all of these types of experiences, meet the students where they are, have them scaffold them throughout their entire education pathway, so that when they get to the more intensive experiences, they're really set up for success. Or when they're ready to enter into the workforce, they have more than enough experience. They've been through the challenges. They've experienced a whole wide variety, have a lot of career clarity and exposure to industry, and they're the best set up to land meaningful employment post-graduation.
And don't forget to engage the small and medium-sized businesses. A lot of our institutions, which is great, but a lot of them tend to go after the large kind of Fortune 500 type logos and employers, which we should obviously do. But there's a wealth of opportunities and possibilities with organizations that are in your regions, in your backyard, that might not have that large employer brand presence, but they can provide really amazing opportunities for your learners.
Mm-hmm. Which is where the vast majority of people work. Absolutely. In smaller companies.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. It is really the growth that Riipen has experienced is remarkable. That the reach is really noteworthy, and we appreciate being able to dive more deeply with you all today about some of the ins and outs of how you've made this happen. As we close out our conversation today, how can our listeners learn more about Riipen and continue to follow your work?
Riipen.com is the first place that you can come. You can explore we actually have an open marketplace. So you can actually explore live engagements of what are employers posting onto the platform, what are experiences that post-secondary institutions are posting onto the platform, what kind of workforce programs are being developed and launched on the platform. We've got a whole spotlight area and wall of love where you can hear from our partners and their experiences with this. We also have an annual impact report. And so we encourage everyone to come and sign up. We did our first inaugural annual impact report last year. You can check that out. We will be releasing our new one in the coming months. So there's a sign up for our newsletter and our annual impact report to stay engaged.
And we also attend a lot of conferences. So I really appreciate you having us both on today.
Appreciate you being here.
Thank you both.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
That's all we have for you today. Thank you for listening to Workforces. We hope that you take away nuggets that you can use in your own work. Thank you to our sponsor, Lumina Foundation. We are also grateful to our wonderful producer, Dustin Ramsdell. You can listen to future episodes at workforces.info or on Apple, Amazon, and Spotify. Please subscribe, like, and share the podcast with your colleagues and friends.